Download this code from codegive.com, link in the description below. Running integration tests in a CI/CD pipeline is crucial for ensuring that various components of your application work together as expected. In this tutorial, we'll cover best practices for setting up integration tests in your CI/CD pipeline, along with a code example using GitHub Actions as the CI/CD tool. Overview of integration testing. Integration tests are designed to test how different parts of your application work together. This can involve testing interactions between modules, services, databases, and external APIs. The goal is to identify issues that occur only when components interact. Best practices for running integration tests. 1. Isolate the environment. Use containers, like Docker, to create an isolated environment for your integration tests to ensure that they won't interfere with other tests or the production environment. 2. Use a dedicated test database. Use a separate database instance for your integration tests to avoid polluting your development or production databases. 3. Mock external services. If your application interacts with external services, consider using mocks or stubs to ensure that your tests are reliable and don't depend on the external services availability. 4. Run tests in parallel. To speed up the CI/CD process, consider running integration tests in parallel when possible. 5. Clean up after tests. Ensure that your test environment is cleaned up after tests are run to avoid leftover data affecting subsequent tests. 6. Fail fast. Configure your pipeline to fail as soon as an integration test fails, providing immediate feedback. 7. Use test frameworks. Utilize testing frameworks and libraries that are well suited for integration testing, such as Jest, Mocha, JUnit, etc., depending on your programming language. Example: setting up integration tests in a CI/CD pipeline with GitHub Actions. Let's assume we have a Node.js application, and we want to run integration tests using Jest. Step 1. Write your integration tests. Create a file named integration.test.js in your __tests__ directory. Step 2. Create a Docker file for testing. Create a Docker file to set up your test environment. Step 3. Set up GitHub Actions. Create a GitHub Actions workflow file in .github/workflows/ci.yml. Step 4. Configure your application for testing. Make sure your application can read the database_URL environment variable to connect to the test database. You can use libraries like Dotenv to manage environment variables in your application. Conclusion. By following this tutorial, you've learned how to set up integration tests in your CI/CD pipeline using GitHub Actions. You can adapt the example to work with different programming languages and testing frameworks as needed. This setup ensures that your integration tests run smoothly and provide valuable feedback during the development process. Happy testing!